Okay, welcome back to Moms, Maths and Manuscripts, and I'm delighted to welcome again to this podcast Dr. Elizabeth Berry, who is an assistant professor,
Not associate yet, yeah.
not associate, assistant professor working at New York Medical College, and where she's instructing biochemistry content to master's, PhD, and medical students. She's also communicating science and academic life via her Instagram and TikTok accounts that I'm going to link below the video and in the show notes. And she's also a mom-to-be, which is very exciting, and this is exactly what I wanted to talk to you about today. So welcome.
Yeah, it just happens to be the most recent development in my life, and it happens to fit with the series that you were doing. So I'm happy to be back here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you because I've had a few people who were kind of in academia adjacent situations, or maybe had their babies as PhD students and then moved away from academia as they were postpartum or continuing the pregnancy. And I haven't had anybody who's a professor yet. So you're the first one, and I'm actually really curious how it worked out for you, and maybe some aspects of like planning, whether you ever considered it while you were a PhD student, because last time we talked about how hellish your PhD was. And maybe this thought didn't even cross your mind at all. So we will get into that. But first of all, how are you feeling?
I am doing well right now because I'm in like the happy second trimester bump world and haven't reached the, supposed third trimester hell again.
Mhm.
First trimester sucked, I have to say. I was very absent on all fronts, I think, because I was when I was not working at my desk, I was in bed.
Mhm.
But currently, I'm very content, as long as I'm not in the heat.
That's good to hear, though. But yeah, I mean, third trimester can be difficult, especially closer to the end. But from my experience, I think it was actually quite enjoyable as well. So I hope this is going to be the same for you, as long
I
as it
hope
doesn't get
so.
too hot yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be peak summer times right around the
Hmm.
corner, so we'll see how I handle that.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you because from your content, from what you were sharing on Instagram, it seemed that I don't know, this year or maybe this semester in particular have been really stressful. Did it have to do with your pregnancy, or is just something unrelated, or is it always like that?
I think it had to do a combination of things. So this has been my second year in this role. Last year was my first year. This year I took on another large role at my school. So the first year I was the course director for graduate biochemistry fall and spring semesters, as well as I taught in the medical school. This year I took on the module director position for the medical school course, and so I had to run a medical school course myself, make the schedule, teach like 60 to 70% of the lectures in it, build the exams, coordinate professors, post grades. It was a disaster. It turned out okay. It just that was a very big burden,
Mhm.
which coincided with finding out that I was pregnant. Which was in like December, late December, when the module was wrapping up in the medical school, as well as my graduate school course, and then finding out I was pregnant at the same time. So I think all of that coinciding really did take a toll on me
Mhm.
mentally, but also physically, because I was like, why am I so tired? And then I was like, oh, this it's not just because of work. There's an added factor that's making me so
Mhm.
tired on here. So that's kind of why I think this year was more because I had another large leadership role that I took on.
That sounds really hard, especially
Yeah.
combined with the first trimester and everything that it brings. But how did you react when you found out that you were pregnant, given that you already had this amount of responsibility and so much to do?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I had a panic attack.
Mm, I imagine.
It was unplanned.
Mhm.
So I was not anticipating, at that moment to particularly find out that I was pregnant, and I was already so stressed out. And of course, we're scientists. What do we do? We immediately start calculating dates, etc. And so I immediately was like, okay, when will I be due? And then I'm like, oh, that's the start of the next semester next year. That's the possibly worst time for this to happen, you know? So that immediately led to a spiraled panic attack, which
Mhm.
thankfully my cousin picked up the phone on FaceTime and she talked me off the ledge, so that was good. But yeah, I
Hmm.
did not handle that well originally.
It's interesting that, yeah, the first thought is how will that work work-wise instead of, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not saying that you were not excited at the same time, but it's, yeah, I can relate to the fact that, yeah, you find out and then you're like, oh my God, what does it mean now for work and doing things and how is all of that going to happen? I don't know if I want to get straight into that, but maybe let's go there. So, how was it then reconciling that, like, especially first trimester with work? And did you have any flexibility in that you could take some time off when you felt particularly bad, or at least you could, I don't know, work from home or something?
Yeah, so thankfully my schedule is pretty flexible. I obviously there are in-person events and there are courses that I'm running that I have to be present for, but I was able to work from home on the days that I did not need to be there or half days that I did not need to be there, so that was really helpful. And so that was accommodating, but that was done my own part. I didn't like reach out for any extra accommodations because I have the flexibility to make my own schedule, so I kind of just worked around what I needed to. If I woke up and I was not feeling amazing that day, there was obviously no option for me to go in. I would be working at home at my desk here. So,
Mm-hmm.
but overall, it could have been worse. I was pretty like nauseous the whole time and very tired, but I wasn't puking, which was great,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of people do. So, but my schedule was pretty flexible and accommodating regardless. Yeah.
Okay. What about the attitude and the reactions from your colleagues, your bosses? How, like, were they supportive? How did they react? Or was there a little bit of, oh, this is an irresponsible choice in the responsible moment?
So actually, I was pretty well received across the board. The only reaction was like, "Oh my gosh, you do too much, and we don't have coverage for you."
Mm-hmm.
So that has been my predicament basically this whole time because I knew that going in
Mm-hmm.
because I teach so much of the content myself. And I know that there aren't others at the school that are capable of substituting in for me into the courses that I'm teaching. And so I knew this was going to be a big burden. And so one of my supervisors did react in that way, which is a valid concern because I run so much of the content for the school.
Mm-hmm. Did they find somebody, or how is it going to work?
So I've been working on this myself a lot of the time, but also, so like two things have been going on. One, we've been trying to hire faculty,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a school directive that didn't have to do with me. That was something that happened before because they want to hire more educator tracked positions. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Recognizing that you need to have a stability in the school to run courses and not just rely on research faculty, which is fantastic. And so coincidentally, we did just hire a woman who knows biochemistry content, and she will be coming in end of August. So a little late, a little late. Not much time to prep anything, but she'll be able to learn what's going on, and then maybe work in the future as we build up with things. So that's a positive thing. It just doesn't give a lot of time for me to actually use her adequately right away in the course before I leave. But the other thing is I've had to plan my absence. So, like, for example, our fall semester for the graduate school starts August 17th. The medical school starts August, I think, 4th. And so I teach in both of those. And so I've basically had to organize the schedule to front load other lectures for the graduate school while I'm gone,
Mm-hmm.
and then move my stuff to like November, December when I can come back. And for the medical school, I've done a combination of the both, but I'm going to have to do a lot of pre-recording podcasts. But again, this has been all on my side and I have planned all of this. And
Mm-hmm.
it was very intimidating. And I think this is really what freaked me out the most initially because I knew that I was going to have to figure this out. And that was overwhelming.
Okay. Well, at least it sounds like there is a bit of flexibility, and that was going to be my next question. Will you have maternity leave? Because I know US is very difficult in that regard, and that kind of terrifies me coming from Europe because, and especially here in Austria, it's very normal that women take maybe a year, and at least, not everybody can, obviously, or some people can stay longer, but at least there is an option. And when I hear, and I recently had Lauren from Lauren Finds a Way on the podcast as well, and she was not going to take, or she couldn't take any maternity leave at all. And she is now working with a newborn. And I was listening to it absolutely. I mean, it's working for them, but I was absolutely terrified because I cannot imagine that. So I wanted to ask you how is it going to work? Do you have official maternity leave?
It's it's not like a maternity leave policy. It's like a short-term disability policy that maternity falls under.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, is what I've figured out is how it's termed and classified, basically. And they do give 6 weeks full pay for normal birth and then 8 weeks full pay for C-section.
Mm-hmm.
And then essentially, there are agencies that the school works with then afterwards where you can extend your leave, but it's not at full pay
Mm-hmm.
unless you supplement with sick time or vacation time.
Okay.
But I do have 6 or 8 weeks, depending on either, of full pay from my institution for covering my maternity leave, which I really cannot use that much more than that because November 11th, I need to run a medical module.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way around that one. I was able to shift my graduate so that my other faculty can lecture September, October, basically, but I need to be back for November because there's no replacement for me for the medical school. There's no flexibility for teaching with that, basically, because it
Yeah.
has to be that time in the year because that's how their blocks work.
Oh my God. This is, I mean, okay, at least this is just one, from the sound of it, it's just one module, right? And then the other one is a bit later.
They're
Or,
both actually, I'm going to be teaching them both at the same time, which is a whole
okay.
nother basket of worms, but that'll be,
Oh
I'll,
my
we'll
God.
deal with that. We'll deal with that then. I know the content well, at least, so I can just bank on
Mhm.
my brain regurgitating what I know, hopefully.
Okay. Um, at least, yeah, at least there is this 6 weeks. It's already, I'm not gonna lie, that sounds stressful, but yeah, I'm sure that um, this is much better than it could have been as well.
It could have been zero, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to figure out as a first-time mom.
Hmm.
I don't know what's going to be. I don't know what my brain state's going to be. I don't know what I'm physically going to be like. I don't know anything. So,
Mm.
just going off of what I can do with the policy and what I have to do at school is all I can really
Yeah.
rely on right now because I don't know anything else.
I think maybe on the positive side, from my personal experience and from a lot of guests who are already moms on the podcast, I can tell you that there is always this misconception that like mom brain, moms are foggy and unfocused and unproductive, but actually it couldn't be further from the truth. I think you'll find yourself so much more like laser focused. Okay, this is the time that I have, this is what I need to do, and I'm just going to do it. And I'm sure that it's going to work out somehow.
Yeah, I could understand having, well, because when I have multiple tasks, I always really do compartmentalize well, so I think
Hmm.
that will work out. But you mentioned brain fog, and I have to say, the first trimester, I felt really stupid.
Hmm.
I was supposed to come in and lecture and answer questions at high yield topics and lead like ethics course too. And I was just like, wow, the information, I remember it was there, but I can't, it's pretty impassable right now. So that was interesting about first trimester for me.
Hmm.
A lot of brain fog.
It's expected, right? Your body is growing a human. You are
Yeah.
going through so much already, and plus, I guess it's also since it wasn't expected and a bit of a stressful period, and it's all a lot at the
Yeah.
same time. So yeah. Well, okay, at least it sounds like you do have a little bit of support with somebody new coming in, and you do have some maternity leave. So then you're planning to come back essentially full time to teaching, and do you have help in a sense like your family nearby or something? You have somebody to help with the baby?
Yes, thankfully. I don't think this plan would be feasible otherwise.
Mm.
My mother-in-law she doesn't work anymore, and so she has basically said she will take care of everything, which I'm so thankful for. They're not very far away, like 40 minutes, not too bad, but she could stay here. The baby can go there, but she really has stepped up and said that she would be taking over because she understands how busy I am, and I'm not in a position to take the role of staying at home.
Mhm. When it comes to that, I wanted to ask you, so when we are in academia, I think independence is very prized, and like we learn that we should be independent, maybe shouldn't ask for help too often, too much. And for me, at least, it was very difficult to unlearn that. And specifically in postpartum, it was so hard to ask for help because A, there is an issue of control and wanting to keep everything under control. And then there is this like, I am independent, I can do it myself. And also, who is going to do it better than me? Do you find that your maybe background, your education kind of made it harder for you to be like open and vulnerable and ask and accept help?
I honestly, yeah, my brain wars with that every single day. I mean, I'm a very independent, stubborn person and
Mm,
very bullheaded, so I like taking care of things and I will take care of things if someone else doesn't do it within a timely manner. I'm just one of those people. Um, that everyone knows it too. But so, yes, the thought of having to rely on someone else so integrally is intimidating for me
mm,
because I'm not used to having to shell off the responsibility on someone else. And while I'm cognizant that they would be absolutely perfectly fit, responsible, everything will be fine, I do feel lack of control with the situation, which I think is a really common theme with people who have been in academic institutions for so long and working and really, I mean, my job is I'm an independent entity. I have to create my own schedule. I have to, organize everything myself. And so not getting to do that in my personal life very soon is a little scary, I have to admit.
mhm. How are you dealing with that?
Um,
Leaving
not
it for
well.
later?
Not well.
Okay.
I think it's an identity issue
Mm,
because I think we all struggle with this, but when you are a student, you kind of label yourself as a student, right? I'm a student, I am a PhD student, I'm a master's student, and my role is to do well and get good grades. Then you might label yourself as a scientist because you feel like you've leveled up and you work at the bench and you are publishing. Um, then you might label yourself as a postdoc. Even another rank up the ladder. Now I might label myself as like a professor, but now I have another label that's impending, which is mom, which I am not, I don't know what to do with that label yet personally, because I
mhm,
feel like all my other labels have been assigned to me. And
mhm.
I guess this is too, but it's hard to wrap your head around when you have a new label in your identity. And so basically, I've been trying to not let labels brand me and just be myself and try to figure out what that means, but still work in the spaces that require me to do different tasks in the different spaces. And I think that's what I've been struggling with the most.
I think it's going to be probably it's going to be a struggle for a while, even after the baby is here, but it is a process that yeah, it's going to be an evolution, gradual evolution, and I don't know if we ever arrive to the point where we are fully like, okay, yes, I'm a mom. And that's, for me, it still feels like I'm almost 3 years into it, and it still feels like certain parts of me are still forming, and maybe I'm still somewhat grieving some past identities, but yeah, it is ever changing and ever going. Do you think, so when it comes to grief, do you think there was like when you found out, do you think there was some moments of like, okay, I'm not going to be as much of a, I don't know, scientist, as much of an academic, or there was something, some worry, some fear that this aspect of your identity, your professional identity, is going to suffer in some way?
I definitely think that has an impact, and it's such a big conversation that's had throughout the academic space or just in the workspace as general, because as a woman, you may be viewed in one bracket when you are not considered, as a mom, right? You are a working individual, you don't have the time constraints that someone that has a child has, but as soon as you become labeled as someone who has a child or has a family or other time constraints, you kind of get put, or maybe you might think you get put into this other bracket of someone who is maybe not going to move up as quickly or maybe be able to handle things as quickly. And that was terrifying for me because, again, I've been always a very dominant individual and very, I don't know, I have a big growth potential. I've been moving pretty quickly up through things and I really like the trajectory that I'm taking and I like being in charge of things.
Mhm.
And I was really worried that this new phase was going to take that away from me. And
Mhm.
so that's something I've been struggling with as well because I want to make sure that I'm not viewed, that I'm not, showing up or taking charge or being in control of things as much anymore. I want to make sure that I'm still viewed that way. And it's just really hard for me to judge or see if other people view you differently because you kind of feel like they do, you
Mm-hmm.
know. The first thing that people see now when I walk around is my stomach. And so that's something new because I'm like, okay, well, they might be obviously viewing me differently now in my capacity because of my physical attributes currently, but then also later on will because I will have a child.
Mm-hmm. Is this more your perception, or have you ever really like encountered some, I don't know, comments or some reactions that were clear that you know a person is viewing you in a different way?
I have not had any comments actually. There's been none, so it's really all in my head.
Okay.
I've just heard stories from other people, and I know that people get blocked from being promoted or they get blocked from being offered certain contributions or tasks, and so it's fully in my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been well received. The deans have been well receiving. I've been there's been no negative so far. I've been pretty well supported, saying that people will come in and, take care of an exam if there's an issue or something like that while I'm
Mm-hmm.
away. But there's just this lying thought always in my head I don't know if it's going to go anywhere because it's just a theme that people go through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I'm not personally experiencing it right now, it's something I'm going to be thinking about.
Yeah, of course. Even if it's not our personal experience, there are still plenty of people around us who might be going through something like that, and while it shouldn't happen, so we cannot kind of pretend that this doesn't exist, and that's part of the reason why I want to be talking about this. But so you say that you've been well received, you've been well supported, but there are still some stories and some kind of other experiences that people were not promoted or something was not available to them. Was it in your school or like in general?
Um, So actually in my school, there aren't many females who are young.
Mm,
And so this isn't a topic that's well versed in the school, which is another reason why I'm like a little afraid of it because they haven't dealt with one of me in a while, if you
mm-hmm,
know what I mean. And so I don't have a good basis on really how that's going to impact things
mm-hmm,
necessarily. And in general, I think so I'm on the tenure track with my school, and you're constantly worried about, well, one, I'm an assistant professor, which is the first stage. The first thing would be promotion to associate professor. And you're worried about also being tenured down the road as well. And so I'm thinking about that because I know that process itself has been kind of stagnant at my school as well. And so because of that baseline, I don't know how my pregnancy would affect that on top of the baseline of not moving. So that's really why I've been concerned about that.
okay. If we look back at your time as a PhD student, though, did you have any examples of people, women getting pregnant, or in general, people becoming parents as PhD students, or was it completely just out of questions?
It was not even considered in my brain at
Mm-hmm.
all. One of my friends actually, she was pregnant and had her baby during her PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like around someone that went through that, and honestly, seeing that and then the change that happened with how she was finishing, I couldn't even mentally load that in because
Mm-hmm.
it would have been it's really competing interests because the stuff that I was doing, I can't work with what I'm doing because of when there's tons of chemicals in the laboratory, you're working with animals, there's restrictions for all these things, and one, you don't want to expose yourself to those things. And so a lot of the time during a PhD, it's so hard because the work you're doing is borderline, you're using things that are toxic. And so
Yeah.
it was really never considered on my page. I didn't really let myself consider that fact. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even let myself get married until after my PhD because I was just, I don't know, really locked in and just felt like I needed to finish the PhD before I was able to do any of that. Whether that was good or bad, that's just how my brain dealt with it.
Mm-hmm. I think it is definitely it's a completely different story whether you're a PhD student in maybe humanities or some other disciplines, or you are a lab-based STEM field where you are, as you said, exposed to toxic stuff. You like experiments don't really wait, or like if you have cells, if you have some model organisms, if you have animals, they're growing and you need to be there no matter what, and or you cannot even handle them. So it's very, very complicated. And I I know that this is possible and people do it, but also I, at the same time, when I was in the PhD program for that 1 year, I completely also forbade myself from even thinking in that direction because it did seem like it's going to be, first of all, very difficult, but also in my head at the time, it was like, no, this is going to be so responsible because it's going to take me longer to finish, and then the science doesn't wait for me, and I'm going to be left behind. And but there is sort of a repeated topic and repeated thing that comes up in many episodes about motherhood in and around academia, that there is no good time. And I can imagine that, you know, for your situation, you also have certain time constraints that you need to follow within your tenure track. So was that thinking present for you that, yeah, like, oh my God, this is not a good moment, not only in terms of the course, but also in terms of just the general progression of your career?
So I think it was more of a concern of the timing during the particular year, not necessarily the timing in my length of hire, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Because I knew all up front that the time for promotion was already extended, I didn't think that pregnancy was going to delay that any further, maybe. But like I said, I don't know. It was
Okay.
more of like timing during the semester, I think. The thing that I don't know still though is they have what I'm under is like a 3-year contract and then they reevaluate you and I guess like you either stay as an assistant professor or they put you up for promotion. I still don't know because I'm in my second year. And so what is a little concerning is my third year, which starts July 1, I will be on maternity leave for part of where they've told me that they put your clock on hold for while you're gone, but I don't really know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of uncertainties, and I think this is probably uniform across the board at colleges and universities because there's committees that control promotions, and you don't really get to see the inner workings of how those work unless you are in the actual promotion cycle. So there's a lot of guesswork, which I guess really does give you anxiety up
Mm-hmm.
front because you don't really know how what you're doing currently might impact that.
But would you say that people in this kind of situation, like if they want to have a family, if they want to have a child, they should still go for it, no matter what? Or like, does it, I'm not even sure what I'm asking. Does it make sense to wait or until you are more certain, or does it never come?
I don't think it ever comes. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't. I think it's all up to how you handle the situation and how you show up. And if it's the time that you want to do something, then you should, you know, that's what you want to do and you will make it work for how you want it to work at that point.
Mm-hmm.
While it wasn't something that I wanted to do while I was a PhD student, I think that if you want that time during that, you should be able to do that and it should be accommodated,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're not getting any younger, right? You don't, there's different, I think it's like the whole your career and your personal life they're competing constantly. And why should you have to put your personal life on hold if that's really important goals for you if you're focusing on career at the same time? I think that both should be able to go at the same time. And I think one of the cool examples of this is I'm teaching in the medical school, right? And there actually were a couple first year medical students who had children in their first semester of medical school. And just like looking at that perspective, that's crazy. Like that, how powerful do you have to be like, I am a new M1 coming in. I'm taking anatomy, I'm taking metabolism, I'm taking all these exams. I'm also pregnant and I'm gonna have a child right in the middle of all that, and no one's gonna stop me. That's crazy and powerful. And so I think that's a great example on how if that is your goal with your family or loved ones or everything, you should just do what you need to do. And there are rules and regulations that will protect you now, thankfully, because things are more advanced today. And I don't think you should wait. I think you
Mm-hmm.
should do what you should want to do personally, is also career-wise.
that's a great point that yeah, we always tend to think in kind of a more skewed way, right? We need to put things on hold for our career, kind of career choices and career progression, career, I don't know, development growth is more important, but at the same time, yeah, what about our personal dreams and goals and why should they wait? Why can they not be as important or more important for some people and why shouldn't that be accommodated also? But of course, well, that's that would have been a very great world to live in if it was accommodated always, but
Right.
unfortunately,
Not
that's
every
not the case.
situation. Yeah. And
Yeah.
everyone has different pressures or different expectations or desires. And my mom didn't have me until she was 37.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really feel this pressure to have children early in my life because my parents kind of chose the career route early on. And so I did follow them in a way, even though I'm having a child earlier than they did, I'm still at a point in my career like they were where they were stable at that point. So
Mhm.
I kind of had that role model of, not early expectations and you can be 37, you can be 40, you can, people have children later in life, and that gave me like a different perspective, I think, than other people might be growing up with.
Mhm. But did you always, or for a long time, knew that you wanted to be a mom, or was it something that just kind of, it happened and was a decision at that point?
No, absolutely. Like we wanted to have a family. Um, I just wasn't ready.
Mhm.
I just didn't feel ready. And I guess, maybe that was because my passions were just really driven by science at that point, and I was really while while there were things going on in my PhD, I still really was. I'm an enjoyed science. I love science. I love studying things. I love teaching people. I'm blessed to be able to communicate science as a profession now, and not just on Instagram, which is great that to be able to do that. And I think so. Being able to be satisfied with a profession allowed me to have other passions that were as dominant, and so it let the motherhood passion come up.
Mhm. But you mentioned feeling ready and not feeling ready, and I don't know if we ever are. It's just it comes back to there's no perfect time, and also there is no moment in which you are like, okay, that's it. Now is the time. I'm fully ready. There is always something else to do, to achieve, to I don't know, maybe optimize in terms of health or physical fitness or whatever it is. I don't know, but I don't think you can ever be 100% ready for that. But
Yeah,
maybe
I
that's
think
part of it.
on that like trend as well, you mentioned not feeling ready, and I will bring up something that I did not think that it was going to be easy to have children, honestly, because
Mhm.
I have struggled with ovarian cysts consistently since I was really in high school. And I've had a lot of pain, I've been to the ER a ton of times, I've been on medication. And so I really did not think it was going to be easy to have children. And so that really, I think I was protecting myself and I didn't want to have that as like an expectation that it was going to happen right away because of that. And I think not only was I really loving science career, I think I was throwing myself in that more because I wasn't sure of the possibility of actually becoming a mom.
That's definitely another layer to it. But at the same time, I guess it also gives you a different perspective that, like, if it happens, then you feel like it's maybe even so much more precious than if it wasn't for your health conditions.
Right, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. But I definitely was trying to probably subconsciously suppress the desire because I
Mhm.
was really worried about being disappointed.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I think I wanted to take us again back to your maybe PhD or even earlier than that. And if you had any then examples, so you mentioned your colleague that had her baby in her PhD, but maybe any other examples of mothers, how was your like view of them? Did you also, now looking back, think at the time that they were less available, less productive, or did you have some kind of this preconceived notions of mothers in specifically in academia or in science?
Not necessarily. Like, so I've had really good examples around me of women who do it all.
Hmm.
While it was very confusing to me how they did it all, I still saw them, rise to the occasion and do it all, and I truly aspired to be like them. But I personally have had really good examples, but you do hear of people outside your circles being limited by these factors depending on what job situation they're in. But like one of the really good examples is one of my best friends. She's a lawyer for Sony, and she has had two children and is still able to be promoted and working at a high level within the company. And that's incredibly inspiring to me, looking at that example, being able to go to court and lead lawsuits and provide evidence while still having the role as a mother as well. And
Hmm.
so I definitely aspire to be like that. Like I said, while it's still confusing to me how people do this, I guess I will
Hmm.
figure it out at some point.
I'm definitely, I mean, as inspiring as it sounds, I'm also wondering how. Because unlimited sleep and everything that comes with babies and toddlers, including the constant sickness.
Yeah, which you tend to keep running into, unfortunately.
Yeah, all the time, every other week. So I don't know. I don't know how people manage, but if some people do, then we can. So yeah, that's what I try to keep telling myself at least. Yeah, but obviously, of course, there's different situations and there's maybe more help, less help, more, I
Mhm.
don't know, village around, less village around, and so on. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
also.
people who have to do it by themselves with no support
Mhm.
is the cost of like childcare alone is absolutely insane. And the whole notion of how I don't know if you've been keeping like along with this, but the whole notion that birth rate is declining, right? There
Mhm.
aren't as many women having children. And my thought is, well, if childcare is so expensive, if there aren't people around to help alleviate childcare costs, and then salaries aren't high enough to accommodate these childcare costs, of course people are going to be having less children
Mhm.
because it's not attainable, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think on top of everything, you're also thinking about finances and how you would juggle that at some point based on the limited, your salary, and then potentially how much you would have to put on top of that for childcare.
Mhm. This is another terrifying thing for somebody coming from Europe because I mean, there are, of course, it's very much country dependent here as well, but the numbers that I sometimes see online on Instagram for childcare in the US are insane.
Yeah, like at least
Insane.
$2,500 a month
God.
for one child.
Yeah. I mean, essentially one person works just to cover the childcare.
Right. And then people make this decision of, okay, then one person will just, because if their salary equivalents childcare, then they will stay home and
Mhm.
just be the childcare because at the end of the day, the net money is the same, which is
Yeah.
really sad at that point that it has to come to that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, US is a difficult place to have children in many aspects, but this is definitely, I mean, when I hear some family members in other countries paying 600 euros a month, that's already kind of
It
what?
feels like a lot to you, yeah.
It feels like a lot because I can be honest with you for a second. We are paying like 100 euros a month here in Austria. It's not
That's
a free
great.
day. Austria also has a lot of problems in terms of like some people say that there is no support for moms who want to work. There's only support for moms who don't, because also the childcare is like on average from let's say 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., maybe
Mm,
4 p.m. if you're lucky. So it doesn't really cover a full work day. So often women are expected to reduce their working hours, which is also then leading to a whole host of other problems. But at least there are options, and at least there is something that is not eating up your entire salary.
right.
And yeah, so when I hear these things, I truthfully don't know how people are having kids.
It's really the fact that it has to become a monetary decision to have a
Mhm.
family is just it's disgusting to me. And
Yeah.
it just hurts inside to think about that. And the people who, they want to have big families, and then you are just forced into this situation where you don't have a lot of money to spread across all the children, and then
Mhm.
you're in a lower income situation, and that's like a default just because you wanted to have families? Like why does that have to work like that? Even if you're making a very good salary, the number of children you have is just going to put you back in the different bracket because of how expensive everything is. And that's
Mhm.
really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, it shouldn't be to that extent, at least, you know. Like, of course, it is going to be a financial decision to some extent, right? Like, you have to think about providing a good life for them. But when it comes to like, we can only put one child in childcare, and that's already kind of pushing it. Then it is really really sad.
Yeah, and the like for me personally, I would not want to quit my job and be a
Hmm.
stay-at-home mom ever. Like that's
Hmm.
just it's just not something that I would want to do.
Hmm.
I really enjoy working. I enjoy what I do, and to be, put up against that question would just be heartbreaking because why do I have to choose between two passions,
Hmm.
right?
So it never really even crossed your mind that you might do that.
No.
Okay.
I really enjoy being mentally stimulated with the science community, and if I lost that, I would be not satisfied. I really would not be.
Mm-hmm. We're so different, and it's going to be a question to answer for everybody on their own, and there is no, I guess there is no right or wrong answer. It's just sad that there is like there should be options for everybody with like all sorts of paths and passions, but so far it seems that yeah, the majority of or like the system favors maybe people who want to stay at home with their kids
Hmm.
and quit their jobs, which is yeah,
Yeah, that's
sad
never been
again.
something that I've wanted to do. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I understand. It's something that kind of surprised me actually because I personally always thought that I will be actually okay as a stay-at-home mom. And then after I had my son, I realized that I cannot I cannot do that.
Why is that? What was going through your mind?
I mean, I I love him, and it's always I feel like I always need to add this caveat, like I love him, but I really enjoyed being at home with him, as difficult as it was at times, and I stayed kind of essentially full-time parenting with like little work in nooks and crannies of my days for 2 years. But at the like second half of second year was already a little bit like maybe that's a bit too long for me, and I do feel like I need some other type of fulfillment from other sources. And I didn't expect that. I always wanted to be a mother, and I always thought that like that's just going to be what fills me and like fills my cup completely. And then I realized that it doesn't. And it was a bit of like, okay, that's interesting. I didn't expect that. But yeah, and I realized I do need to have something else.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because everyone, like you said, has we have different passions, we have different ideas on like what is most important or most meaningful to us, and being able to identify that that's actually maybe not what you thought it was in the middle of something like that, like you experienced. Like, I don't know, maybe I will feel differently. It's just there's so many unknowns because it's a new experience and I don't know what my brain's going to be doing at that point. But currently I have always been in the fact that because of my mom, who was a supervisor for the fine arts department for this whole district, always the woman that people would go to for guidance, for help, fix all their problems more than she probably wanted to. I've had this strong women role model growing up, and so I think I've really idealized that and thought, okay, that's something that I would want to do as well, which is why I don't think I've considered the other basket of being a stay-at-home mom as much. But like you said, you thought the other way while you were home. Who knows what's going to go on with me?
It's true that you might feel completely different. I think that we undergo such a huge transformation, and it's really impossible to say in advance, and it's really impossible to predict and like set any expectations because really you don't know how it's going to unfold for you and how you're going to react. And maybe it's good to stay open to this possibility, but yeah, I can also totally understand that like you need that kind of fulfillment and intellectual stimulation, and for some time there is not a lot of intellectual stimulation when you're taking care of a baby. But
One of my students actually, this semester, they gave me a little present at the end of the semester. They gave me the biochemistry ABCs book. So maybe I'm just going to be reading textbooks to the
Yeah.
baby. That'll be my mental stimulation. I'll read Leninger's biochemistry
Yeah.
from start to finish to them, and maybe they will have a large vocabulary by year
Yeah.
three.
Yeah. Unexpected sources of vocabulary.
Exactly.
No, but that's going to be really funny. I'm also curious how that baby then is going to
Their first
come.
word will be like cytoplasm now.
Yeah. Why not? Yeah, we had a book of experimenting on babies, which sounds horrible, but actually was just like some experiments that you can see to like um, I don't know, show different pictures to the baby and see that they would show preference to the one that resembles a face more than the other and stuff like that. So some little things that you could do by age. Have we done any of that? No. But I'm counting on the next one. Maybe maybe there will be a bit more like I will be more relaxed and I can do some experiments.
That'll
The
be fun.
the first one was just survival.
Yeah,
Don't want to scare you.
I mean that's what I've heard. I mean, you get unsolicited advice from many people at this point. They're like, "You're never gonna sleep again."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll figure it out, I guess." I was very
Hmm.
sleep deprived during my PhD, so we'll see how that compares to
Hmm.
being a mom.
I really don't, I dislike this whole, you just wait, it's gonna get so much harder and you will never sleep and they
I
will
don't
do
like
this.
being told these things.
Yeah, no.
It's like, can you just be a little positive, maybe? Like, I mean, like, I'll figure it out. It's gonna be what it is. You know,
Hmm.
everyone has their own experience. Yeah, I might not sleep at all, but all right, I'll figure it out at that point. You know, I don't need to be stressing about not sleeping now.
Yeah,
I should be sleeping now.
yeah. Honestly, like that was my whole thing during pregnancy that I completely, like I tried to unfollow anything on Instagram or just really ignore any sort of people trying to tell you horror stories, especially people love telling you horror birth stories and stuff like that. And I was trying to kind of imagine that I'm in a, I don't know, in a soundproof room and I don't hear anything. Everything is just bouncing off of the walls on the other side and like nothing exists but just my positive thoughts. In a way, it paid off for me, but like at the same time, yeah, I was a little bit shocked on the other side of it. But I really don't like the immediate desire to just say all the negative stuff and like throw all the negative experience on you because in the end we are all having our own experiences. There is no two of the same
Right.
babies, right? And no two of the same families or mothers. So it's going to be completely something completely yours, and you don't have to take on any of that
Yeah,
advice.
I agree. There's a lot of unsolicited advice. I mean, your social media, your phones, they listen to you, so you start getting a million ads for things. They're like, "What is this and why is this relevant and do I need it?" Like that by itself is overwhelming. So I can totally understand the bubble that you would like to put yourself in to avoid all of this going forward because it's all over the place. But
Hmm.
I do have to say that the healthcare system in general isn't very educating as
Hmm.
a mother in what I've experienced so far. It's really like you're in, you're out, and they don't really talk to you much about anything. Like the whole glucose testing, gestational diabetes. You know, I understand because like I've read about it because I took the initiative to do that, but wouldn't it be nice to have a system that's going to explain all of these different things to you and why they're relevant and not just be like, here, drink this thing in 5 minutes and we're gonna slap your blood out in an hour and see if you pass.
Hmm.
Like it's crazy to think that people aren't educated on the front end on this when they are experiencing this in this country. It's just like, oh, come in, we'll scan you. Bye. Come in, we'll do a blood draw. Goodbye. And then, so I think that's why you're so tempted to look online and you really have to educate yourself on this process too. But then it's confusing because you get these crazy pieces of advice from people, or like you said, the horror stories that you don't want to listen to
Yeah.
because probably won't happen to you, but could it? I don't know. It's in the back of your mind.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel for me personally, the like educating myself was important, but I can fully understand somebody who's like, I want to just trust my doctor and not learn anything. I will just trust their opinions and their like whatever they're saying, because it's getting so stressful. Like me, as also somebody with a background in science, I felt that it was important for me to go to sources and like read some papers and understand glucose test. Is it needed? Is it not needed? Do I really have to do that? And so on. But at the same time, it was a little bit stressful, and I did get into a few arguments with my doctor. That was not helpful for my anxiety-free pregnancy, probably. But you
I
do
mean,
what
but
you
you
have to
ask
do.
questions because
Yeah.
that's how you're geared, that's how you just function because
Yeah.
you have the background. And I definitely function the same way. And, maybe I asked too many questions, but
Mhm.
sorry, I don't know. Have a conversation with me like I'm not an idiot. That would be nice.
It was, I feel like I was so annoying for my doctor, or like there was another doctor in the same practice that had to see me a couple of times because my doctor was not available. And I was so annoying for her because I was asking questions and she would just love somebody who would, not ask for informed consent and just do things that she told this person to do. And at some point she asked me, what am I working as? What's my profession? I was like, how does this matter? It shouldn't be like you are this doctor on a pedestal that knows everything and you are talking down to me like I'm an idiot that doesn't know anything. And I had to do my, like, I'm a scientist card, or I'm a former scientist, but still, because I was so frustrated with this. I was like, you are not the only person who can read papers. And more likely, you are not even reading any papers because you just don't have time. So
Hmm.
it's most likely that you are not even up to date on all the research. And you're
Exactly.
using the research doesn't get to clinical practice for several years anyway. So shut up, basically.
I will definitely throw out the profession card as well when I need to, when I'm annoyed. Or you're right, they do ask you. Because you start asking questions like
Hmm.
talking about like alpha fetoprotein, or you're talking about, oh, are those the ventricles in the brain during my anatomy scan? And they look at me and they're like, what do you do? You know what I mean? So like, come on. If I want to discuss things maybe at a different level than another patient does, be open to it
Hmm.
because we have different backgrounds and I think that should be accepted and not just squished down and it's not annoying. You should be happy that maybe your patient's more, interested in knowing or
Yeah.
maybe they just have a different background, right? It's
Yeah.
very frustrating.
And I mean, I imagine that it's the same here as well, that you have very limited times per patient, but I understand that they maybe don't always have to answer all of our burning questions, but at the same time, the part of like informed consent kind of should be important, because otherwise it feels like everything that you are doing, you are not even like asking explicitly or explaining explicitly what's going on and why you need that, and then it's not really informed consent.
No,
And that
it's
was
more of
that
a
was annoying for me. That was like, come on, you should not just like throw me around just because I'm pregnant, and like, now do this, now do that. You want a healthy baby, right? So you have to do this, and it's like, come on.
you feel like a robot that has a blood bank and also a belly.
Hmm.
Because you just come in, here's my arm, or come in, all right, let me put some gel on your stomach and let me measure what's going on and then leave. Get out. You're
Yeah,
done. I don't need you
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
I don't need your brain. That's not a relevant piece in the discussion right now.
That's a shame, because it is like, especially in this situation, like you're already kind of maybe a bit more vulnerable. It's such a big transformation. You are curious, you're anxious, you are wondering if any little like pain or twinge or anything is normal. And also some really weird things can happen in pregnancy. So you are like at 3 a.m. Googling if this is okay or should you
Yes,
go your doctor. And
absolutely.
yeah, and then doctors don't really treat you as as a human. And as you said, you just have a belly and that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a shame.
I can agree. Yeah, because I had pretty early on pretty bad like pubic syphysis, like pelvic girdle pain, where
Hmm.
like every time I lifted one of my legs, I was like dead, just like dead in water. And so I went to my one of my OB appointments and I walk in and I'm like, I am not doing well. I typically do well with pain and I am not doing well with this at all. It's
Hmm.
really disrupting my everything right now. And they didn't have any solutions.
Yeah.
Zero. And I was like, okay. So I went home and then just started figuring out different exercises to help strengthen
Mm,
everything. But it's really it's been a process of less help and less support on the physician and clinical side than I really thought there would be.
mhm. Yeah, I think maybe that's also kind of a downside of a scientific background because I kind of thought that like they're going to be very well educated and they're going to be very helpful and they can point me to like in the right direction of the right studies, the right whatever information. And they're not just going to tell me, ah, what do you want? It's pregnancy. What do you want?
Right,
You're pregnant. So just, deal with it.
right.
Go out, get out of here and deal with it. And the thing of it's pregnancy is like, no.
Just because it is, it doesn't mean
Yeah.
I've dealt with it before. So I still need, adequate explanations and help to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a really eye-opening situation, and it's, I think, unique being someone, like you said, that understands the science and can look things up and wants to be as educated as possible, but the system's really not built to support that.
Hmm. Do you feel like it gives you more anxiety or the fact that you can really like look things up and make your own decisions even without kind of your doctor's support feels actually more grounding?
More anxiety, more
Okay.
anxiety.
Yeah.
I think if they were open to discussing things at the level that I want to, I would feel more comfortable, but it's always I try to jump in with talking about something and it's kind of like surface level response and then that's the end of the conversation,
Mm,
which doesn't help.
that's a shame, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that like they're probably also really overworked and overloaded, but
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
My like I was sort of pushed by my parents to be a medical doctor, and that's why I went to study science as a compromise. And my kind of excuse to not go to medical school was that I also see a lot of doctors being so cynical and so yeah, like they have to kind of grow really thick skin and put a barrier between themselves and their patients oftentimes to like really survive this. It's not
Hmm.
an easy career for sure, but then I felt like I don't want to do that. I don't want to become that.
Right.
Like, and I don't know if there is an answer to that, apart from just becoming very cynical and
Yeah, the system for physicians is really not. So there's the whole academia, right, where it has its own basket of problems. Well, if you become a physician, there's a whole nother basket of problems over there, and they could be different if you work in a hospital or a private practice too. But another one of my best friends, she's a physician who works in a private practice, and so I get to see this unique perspective from her. And there's no, like you said, there's no time.
hmm,
There's really like there's a force of like 15-minute blocks per patient. If you run behind, then you're behind schedule, then other patients are waiting and they get angry, but then you feel like you don't get to know your patient. And so, like you said, over time, I think it's this adaptation that people just develop because they're trying to survive in
yeah.
their own profession. And so I completely resonate with what you're saying in terms of I didn't want that to happen to me either. I
Hmm.
didn't want to become like that because the system is just workhorsing people to death.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it's a shame on both sides, but then for the patient it is, and I guess especially when we are pregnant and already kind of in this, yeah, more vulnerable state, it is really frustrating, and we are kind of left alone, left to figure it out alone. And well, we discussed the downside of the scientific background, but also then it's an upside that we can look it up. But and I know that everybody like this is not gate kept, and everybody should be able to look it up, but also not everybody knows how to, and not everybody knows where to go for truthful information, and not something that is a little bit um, like cherry pick data or misrepresented stuff or something. So yeah, that should be on the doctors, but unfortunately, the system does not support that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think let's round it up a little bit and start to finish. um, Coming back to your experience, and so you are going to continue working all the way until your delivery, essentially, or are you going to go on maternity kind of a little bit before the due date?
Essentially, until delivery, I will be working.
Okay.
Um, like I said, it's all the timing. I'm due September 1st.
Mhm.
The semester for the graduate course that I'm running starts August
Mhm.
17th. I'm hoping to squeeze in like 2 or 3 in-person lectures. I don't know if that's possible. And then go on maternity leave, I guess, right when I need to. But I
Mhm.
don't know if that's even feasible, but that's the current plan. We'll
Okay.
see how that goes.
Good luck. No, honestly, like that, yeah, your replacement, your or people who are going to kind of take over the first lectures will be able to support you, and that's, of course, everything works out in the best possible way. But yeah, also life can can throw some surprises at you, and I hope only positive ones. So in this period until September 1st, until your due date, what is it that you are looking forward to? What is it that you're excited about?
In terms of
Anything.
I mean, this summer currently I'm well, a positive thing, we're having a baby shower in a couple weekends, so we get to see all our friends and family, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to going on vacation for a week at the beach. Whether or not I will deal with the heat very well, we will see. I might be under an umbrella the whole time, but I'm still
Mhm.
looking forward to being at the beach for that week. I am taking vacation before maternity leave. I think that's important. People
Yeah.
should do that. Um, and then in between all of that, I will be kind of front loading, making a bunch of podcasts of lectures, building exams beforehand, reviews beforehand, and working with all my teaching assistants that I'm hiring to
Mhm.
work in the course in the fall. So a little bit of both, but it'll be a busy summer with work for sure.
But it's good that you're taking vacation. At least that's
Yes.
that's to balance things out a little bit. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm wishing you all the best. Do you know who you're expecting?
I do.
Do you want to share? You
I
don't have
could
to.
share.
You don't have to.
I probably will post something on Instagram, but if someone makes it to the end of this podcast, maybe they will be rewarded. So
Mm.
I like to say that my mom raised a strong woman, and I will be doing the same.
Oh, that's so sweet. Continuing the line.
Absolutely.
Congratulations. Okay, so when baby girl arrives, I hope that you can fully relax into it and fully enjoy getting to know each other, and that it's as sweet and as amazing as you imagine without any of the you just wait, you will never sleep again. It's going to be a really challenging but also really wonderful time for you. So enjoy.
Thank you
And
so much.
yeah, thank you so much for joining me here again. Thank you so much for being so open, so vulnerable, and sharing your story. I think it is important that we talk about these things because, yeah, as we discussed, there's so much kind of stigma and maybe misconceptions and misunderstanding of how to kind of reconcile your motherhood role and your career ambitions or your career trajectory. And I think we need to have more of these conversations out in the open. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to talk with you again. Nice to chat.